Why in my eyes is this such a cool car? Let's first start what this car actually is. It's a Mark 1 Octavia 4x4. The location I picked appears to be a lot more busier than I expected. So what this is a basically a Mark 4 Golf with all-wheel drive. So basically an Audi TT in a saloon shape. If you're from America and you don't know what a Skoda is or Octavia is, it's basically your Jetta. We didn't get Jettas in Europe, so we got this instead. This was an alternative to Mark 4 Golf at the time. It was cheaper, more practical, and it wasn't as common. So if you wanted a Mark 4 that was cheaper and more practical, you would have got one of these. Car Photo had miles on their channel, the Mark 1 Octavia as well, same as this, but that was 1.9 TDI, this is 180 petrol. Skoda's never intended to build an all-wheel drive Octavia in the first place, but they got into rally and they decided they wanted an all-wheel drive car, and at the time the FIA regulations required them to build both legal cars that are all-wheel drive and actually sell them. Skoda being Skoda at the time, they were known to be selling cheap cars, and all-wheel drive cars were quite expensive, so what they did is they built this but stripped down version, so it only had the 5-speed gearbox, it only had the weakest 1.8T, I think it was only 150 horsepower. Sorry for so many jump cuts in the video, there's just quite a lot of traffic which I didn't expect. The all-wheel drive system that's in this car is not permanent, it's the Haldex Gen 1. It's the same one that can be found in the R32 Golf, Mark 1 Audi TT, loads of Volkswagen Audi group cars. How it works is when the front wheels start to slip, it will send up to 50% of the power to the back. You can get a controller that will force it to be 50-50 all the time. I think it's up to 80 at the back and 20 in the front with the controller. I'm planning to get that controller in the future, but it's about £700, so it's not going to be anytime soon. This car is not stock at all. I might go into the modifications I've made to the car in a future video. I'm just talking about what this car was when it was stock, and how it's a shame, in my opinion, that most of them disappeared off the roads. So these were cheap cars at the time, and they just got dragged around everywhere. Loads of places used them as rally cars because of their all-wheel drive system. They were light, so you didn't need loads of power to shift them. On a stock engine, just with a VMAP, you could get up to 200 horsepower. If that's safe or not, that's up to you to decide. I pretty much don't get any wheel spin in this. As soon as the front wheel starts to spin, like slip, there'll be a differential actually kicks in, and you actually feel you can like push forward. Even with these crap tyres that I got on, actually the cheapest tyres you can get in that size everywhere, £150, all 4 corners. So if you want to see a video on that, let me know. Parts for this car is actually quite easy to find because it's basically an Audi TT. I had to replace both of the front drive shafts, they're about £60 each. Engine parts are basically Mark 4 Golf, Mark 4 GTI parts, so parts and maintenance pretty cheap, I would say. The only thing that's a bit more expensive is running costs. Tax is about £320 a year, which is quite steep nowadays. So Skoda tried to sell these as a perfect cars for towing, so they fitted it with a tow hitch from the factory. But these weren't that well for towing because they were too light and they didn't have enough power, and they were quite thirsty. From factory you could expect about 35 to 40 miles a gallon at best, so loads of people fitted them with LPG. That was the slogan at the time, "Oh no, another great Skoda," because they tried to shed the stigma around Skodas that was there at the time. So
it's an incredibly smooth ride, isn't it?
Yeah. It's the 4-wheel drive version, this one.
It's quite striking, the look of it.
Well, more and more people seem to think so. Skoda's the fastest selling car brand in Europe.
Can't say I'm surprised. Such good value for money. And the reviews have been brilliant. So how long would I have to wait to get one?
Depends on which model you want. But we do get regular deliveries.
So it wouldn't be long then?
Shouldn't think so.
Right.
I'll tell you what, why don't you drive us back to the showroom? If you like, we can have a look at the order form and some colour charts.
The funny thing is about these, they could have marketed this as the performance edition cars, for example like Ford has ST or RSs, but they branded it as just 4x4 turbo or the elegance trim level, and the performance edition called VRS only were front wheel drive with 180 horsepower. So I think if they actually made this the VRS, they would have sold a lot more in my opinion. I got the VRS bumpers on my car because I liked the way it looked, and the person who I bought the car off already had them on, so I just kept it how it was. Another way Skoda saved money on this car when they tried to shift them away as soon as possible was they only fitted the regular headlights. They didn't put the xenons, which they had in different trim levels. And I believe, I think I read somewhere that they actually just broke even on most of them because they had to shift them so quick so they could apply for FIA regulations, like to pass FIA regulations so they could actually get into rally. It's the same diff you find in the Audi TT. So you can't really launch it. If you do launch it, you will most likely burn it. What you have to do is roll a few meters ahead and then put your foot down, because the pump only works if you're moving. So if you launch it from standstill, you're basically running the clutches inside the rear diff dry, so it won't last at all. Many reviewers at the time actually liked this car a lot, but due to its price, no one bought it. For the same price, you could have bought a Passat 4Motion, which had Torsen, not a Haldex 4-wheel drive system, which was much better. This is better than the VRS. In my eyes, 100%. Even in stock form, it's better than the VRS because of its all-wheel drive system. With some cheap modifications, you can get it to be better than the VRS. VRS is again up in price. These aren't really. If you get a stock one, you're looking about £1,500 to £2,000, and with another grand in modifications, you can make a lot better car than a VRS. And a clean VRS will set you back for about £3 grand, £3.5 grand. If you want me to make a video about all the modifications that I have on mine, let me know and I will make a video about all the mods I've done, which have already been done when I bought it, etc. The car's still not running 100%. I got some vacuum leaks that I need to sort out, fueling issues, etc. From outside, the only visual difference from factory compared to the front wheel drive regular versions is this tiny lip they had to put on, because at higher speed the back would start bouncing. So that's how they sorted it. They just put a tiny lip on the boot. Funnily enough, instead of putting xenons in to save on costs, they put in the sunroof, which is broken. They were always broken. They were well known to be broken on all the early 2000s Volkswagen products. I just don't understand the decisions that Skoda made at the time. You can tell this car was made on a budget when all the clear coat is peeling. I mean, it is 20 years old after all, but you see 20-year-old Mark IV Golfs with a lot better paint job than this. My interior is completely swapped out. I'll put pictures in what stock interior looked like at the time.